Talk of the Town is up and running in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, USA. I'm Scott Montesano, and this is where the Chippewa Valley comes to talk. Hey, last show before Thanksgiving, and a reminder to all of you, Thanksgiving is very much a professional eater's holiday. That's exactly what it is. It's a professional eater's holiday, so make sure you are taking full advantage of Thanksgiving next Thursday. Yeah, get the turkey, get the stuffing, the sweet potatoes, the buttered corn, the buttered carrots. Oh, you have vegetables, but layer them up with butter or cheese if that's what you prefer. If you're Italian like me, or I've deputized all of you as honorary Italians, have that pasta course. Thanksgiving is not for the amateurs, and if you survive this caloric marathon we are all about to go on next week, may God bless all of you. Have yourself an extra slice of pie to celebrate, and we'll see you all in December. Until then, though, we're still here in November, and I am going to talk to you in just a moment about why I find what is otherwise a depressing look to the weather and depressing scenery and landscape these last few days and what we expect for the next few days in the November, why I find this kind of invigorating, so sort of weird with that. Other things we're going to get to today, a local restaurant general manager has clapped back at the community. Going to talk about this and why he made a mistake. Want to point this out as a proud father. Now, my daughter last week had her first violin show. First for the South Middle School Orchestra last Thursday, and it was beautiful and it was fun to go see. And she got first chair, which it's still an accomplishment. They try to rotate it around in middle school. She's not about to go play for the New York Philharmonic anytime soon, though you never know. I'll have another aside to that in a moment, but it was nice to see. And then tonight, my son makes his debut calling Memorial basketball on the Eau Claire Memorial official YouTube page, and North has their version as well. But my son will be the voice of Memorial basketball. Tonight's girls basketball. I wish the schools would promote their in-house video broadcasts a little more, as opposed to there's a third party that's out there operated by a guy in Marshfield. And he's created quite the little business, especially he started it about 10 years ago, especially as schools didn't have their own video broadcasts. And he'd send out a team of paid announcers with one camera, and they'd video broadcast the game. So as radio broadcasts have almost entirely disappeared, you would still have this. You would still have this video broadcast that was out there online. But over the years, a lot of these schools now have as many, they've got more toys than this guy has gotten. The schools are very capable of doing their own video broadcast. So I wish the schools would promote that more, their own broadcast. And in the case of Memorial and North, they have students that do the games. And it's not like the students do it for free. My son gets paid. Your tax dollars go to pay my son to do the game tonight. It still surprised me, but he gets paid to do it. So the district pays the kids, but then doesn't promote the broadcast, and instead lets a third party come in and do the games. The third party sells advertisements, and the school promotes the third party broadcast. It's not like the third party is paying a rights fee. Now, some of you will say, well, Scott, don't you call games? Here at ECHometownRadio.com and our friends at 93.5, you are right, but there's a big difference. We are an audio-only broadcast, and if these schools had their own radio stations, and the schools came to me and said, our school radio station's going to cover the game, we don't want 93.5 or you to come, I'd sit there and go, God bless you. I'd say, God bless you. Go right ahead. We're providing a service that does not currently exist. There's things that surprise me. Is this a big revenue thing? No, it's not. But it's one of those things that you're going to hear me say for the next 4 years as my son calls these games a memorial, basketball and hockey, and he did soccer, and he'll likely do baseball and softball. That letting a third party come in when you already have your own school stuff that you're paying is kind of silly. But I digress. By the way, we talk about my daughter, it's not going to be in the New York Philharmonic, but you never know. Had a great conversation today. An episode of the Beyond the Stage at the Pablo Center is going to drop next Tuesday. We're going to have an earlier drop for it than usual, but we're going to drop an episode of Beyond the Stage with the Pablo Center next week. And the guest that Kathy Wright has is Anthony LaGuardia. Name might not mean something to a number of you out there. It might immediately conjure up wide eyes, but Anthony is a Memorial graduate who is now with a touring show that's going to be at the Pablo Center next weekend. Great conversation with the young man. Went from Eau Claire Memorial, got onto Broadway, was on numerous Broadway shows, then moved to Nashville, and he's been with this Nashville show for the last couple of years. He'll tell you about the show and all of that, but local boy makes good. Great conversation with him. Also had a fun podcast recording yesterday for a show that's going to drop in January with Shane Bauer. He's the president of Pillar Bank. Pillar Bank does podcasts with us, and Shane and I were waxing like middle-aged men over something that very much is true, because Pillar Bank, like a lot of businesses, now has a youth council, a youth committee for their business. When we say youth, those in their 20s and 30s, to help to steer the company towards how do you reach out to the next generation. And he noted something that I think a lot of you have noticed as well. I would say if you're over the age of 35, and frankly, even if you're maybe even over the age of 25, it is difficult to really communicate with those that are 18 to 25. It's very difficult. And this has happened in other generations too, shake your fist at the cloud as the old man. But there are this isn't just generational change. There are some things we have to keep an eye on as this next generation comes in the business, and how do we truly communicate with those that are just getting into young adulthood, because it's not just superficial that they're a group that quiet quits a lot, just doesn't show up to jobs. They're a group that's hard to get in touch with. They don't answer the phone. That's fine. But they don't answer emails, but they don't answer texts either. That's really what's been different the last 2 or so years that I've noticed, even with my young employees. They don't answer text. And it's hard to get in touch with a young adult worker. It very much is. And how do they communicate? They communicate through a variety of apps, but the apps all change every 6 months. I even had somebody not jokingly say, it's sometimes easier to communicate with your young staffer if you find out what their name is on, say, a video game, and you communicate with them through the video game. Remember, this is now the generation that you're starting to now get, the generation, the young adulthood, that 5 years ago, you had COVID right when they were in high school, really when you are starting to not solidify, but really starting to do those connections to interpersonal communication. And that was broken up. So it's something to keep an eye on. And if you yourself have thought, man, the young adults, I knew as I got older it'd be hard to communicate, but I didn't think it would be this hard. You're not alone. And it's not just because you're older. Again, I've known people in their early 30s that are having a very difficult time communicating with those that are just 10 years younger than them. And it used to be you had a bigger window. Also, another podcast you should check out, Jerry Jacobson, retiring at the end of the year as the president of Northwestern Bank. That podcast, the Goodbye Jerry episode of Banker with a Beer, has dropped today, and you're going to want to listen to that one. Okay, things to get to today. So earlier this month, actually, I think it was just a week and a half ago, the joint Applebee's IHOP opened near the Oakwood Mall. Applebee's has been there for a couple of decades, but the announcement came down last May that they were going to combine Applebee's and IHOP together. So the area's never had IHOP before, and they were going to combine the two together. One of just 3 Applebee hybrid concepts that I think exist. And one I'd actually been to down in the Milwaukee area just maybe a year and a half ago myself. But in Applebee's, IHOP, you can get both menus pretty much from open to close. So I haven't been inside of there, but you've got sort of it's not like one half is Applebee's and one half is IHOP. It's kind of mixed together, and you're going into one building, but you can get 2 menus. And there was some excitement in the area for this. Kind of cool. We've never had IHOP before, and I think a reminder to people that Applebee's has always been, an okay place to go to. Well, last week's opening week didn't go that smoothly. A little surprising, by the way, because it is a chain, and I'm always quick to tell you that never forget that when it comes to chains, it's still local people that are there, and that money that goes to the chain, more of it than you think stays local. It's not as local as a 100% local business, but it's still a little bit more local than you would think. Still, being a chain, you'd think things would be a little more on point, and apparently it didn't go that smoothly. People rushed online to complain about long waits, orders that were wrong, staff that got orders messed up. It wasn't a joyful experience for a lot of people. Cold food, the food itself wasn't all that good. So there were a number of complaints. Now, it's the first week. I still plan on going at some point to this Applebee's IHOP combination. Last time I'd been there was maybe a couple years ago when it was still Applebee's, and we did a Hungry Italian review of it, and I noted it was a Sunday around 5:30, and it was dead in there, and it was kind of depressing. Applebee's is one of those restaurants that really hasn't bounced back, not just here, but a lot of places from the pandemic, but I digress. The general manager, and a nice guy, general manager, we met him when we used to do the old Eau Claire Axemen podcast. Oh, remember the indoor football team? Well, he was one of the sponsors of the team, and in fact, they made the announcement that Applebee's and IHOP were combining together in this market. He made the official announcement, the exclusive announcement, on the Axemen podcast last May. Nice guy. Told the story of before he got into restaurant work. He'd done some stand-up comedy, toured around the country a little bit, from Duluth, lived in Arizona for a while, now he's been here for a little bit. Nice guy. The general manager clearly sees the complaints online, all right? Every restaurateur goes to Eau Claire Foodies, and he clapped back at the community in a very lengthy social media post that came out, I want to say either Sunday night or Monday. He posted a photo of their whole staff, kind of like the class photo, got them all lined up. And he posted the photo of the staff, which is a lot of young adults and teenagers. And he posted that, folks, as a shield. We know what you're doing. It's like the worker that posts a photo of their whole family together. It's hard to yell at somebody when you see their whole family in the photo. So he posted the photo of the staff, and we know what you're doing. You're not just trying to give these people notoriety and show you're a unified team. You're trying to be like, hey, don't yell at these kids. He gave a brief apology of, hey, we've got to be better. It was our first week. We've got to be better, and we will get better from this. Cool. That should be the end of what he wrote. Hey, we thank all that came out. Thanks for giving us a shot. We will do better as we go along. We've got to be on point. If you're going to trust us with your hard-earned money, we will be better. That was the crutch of the first couple sentences, and that should have been it. Instead, he went in hard yelling at the community, yelling at all these people who wrote on social media their negative reviews. Let me tell you where he went wrong. Some of you are going to say, well, how dare people even complain? These kids, these workers, they work hard. Folks, we've said it before on this show. People, if they've spent money, have the right to complain. And a lot of the complaints, I went through on the Eau Claire Foodies website and looked at some of the complaints. People were kind of, like, hey, my food was cold and this and that. They didn't necessarily get too rambunctious with it, but it is what it is. There's a lot of competition out there. And sometimes when people write a complaint, doesn't mean they're never going to go back there. And remember this, there is a truth, I will give you this, that some of the negative comments probably aren't even real. Somebody wasn't there. However, it's offset by local restaurants that also have fake positive reviews that go out there. In the end, you cannot go by the negative stuff too much. You just can't. You gotta let everything sit. So if you're a restaurateur or you're any business and there's some negative stuff coming in online, you have to kind of acknowledge the negative, take a step back yourself, go, all right, these are some things we probably have to be better at, and get better. Because things happen very quickly anyway. 2-3 weeks from now, some of the issues you might have might not be issues anyway, and people have short attention spans. So acknowledge negative stuff, but you can't let it sink in too much. Here's where this guy went wrong. Yes, maybe people don't have to run online to complain as vociferously. I can get where it's frustrating. I've experienced it. Some of you have experienced it wherever you are. You get the sense of, shoot, I had just a little dribble down the side of my mouth. And now everybody's blasting me for 2 days about it. It was just one little mistake. I had a little dribble on the corner of my mouth. Not that it happened on this show or anything. I'm just saying, hey, I had one button undone on the top of my dress shirt. I didn't realize it. And now everybody for a week and a half has been hammering me on it. People don't have to run online to complain as vociferously, but welcome to 2013, okay? However, whether new or not, with this restaurant, people spent money. People did spend money. People spent significant money to go to this restaurant for an experience. They didn't just go there for nourishment. They could have gone to any number of places, including places that they already know they like. They chose to go to you, give you a shot. And while some of these people were probably looking for a way to hammer you, there's probably a number of people that truly were disappointed. They were excited. They wanted to really like this. As general manager, you should defend your staff and show support, but arguing with the community won't earn you points. And I'll give you a great example. From back in our earliest days, remember, I've only been back to Perkins once, and it was on a Sunday night just to get a muffin. But about 4 years ago, we took the family to Perkins for a Sunday breakfast at about 7:30 in the morning, so before the rush. And there was one staffer there. This is when you were really struggling to get staff. There was one staffer there, but there was only a couple of tables that were situated. Very nice lady. She took our order. The muffins came out for my wife and 2 kids. I didn't get a muffin. But I got a breakfast. And everybody else got a breakfast. Nobody came back to see us for an hour. I will always remember this. And other tables came in, and some guy there who clearly was the manager because he was walking around with a shirt and tie, and he wanted everybody to know he was the manager. This poor worker was in and out of the kitchen. She was grabbing stuff left and right. She never came back to us, though. She was completely overworked. Finally, we got up and we left. I wrote an email saying, hey, was disappointed in what I got and expected to, get an apology at minimum. Instead, the general manager clapped back at me, said I have to be more respectful, says, understand what's going on. It cost them their business. Cost them their business with me. And of course, me being, I remember going on this program and just hammering them left and right. So as I said, as general manager, you got to be better. You got to be better. If you just improve your service quietly without making a big deal about it, over the next 2-3 weeks, things will be fine. But to clap back on the line's not a good thing. He should have apologized, as he did. You go, hey, thanks for coming out, everybody. It wasn't we did a lot of things I liked for my staff. They worked hard, and we got to be better. We're already working on some of the things that we were told about. That's it. But then to go a step further and pretty much try to yell at people for how dare you even have a negative comment, or I think you were too mean to these kids, that's not going to win you anything. And privately for your team, if you want to gather up your young staff and explain to them, people sometimes be assholes, absolutely. But you shouldn't do it online. I wish this guy the best of luck. All right, I wish this guy the absolute best of luck. I wish this place the best of luck. I want to see it succeed. I think a lot of you want to see it succeed as well. So hopefully it does succeed. That's the goal for all of us with this. So it is November, gloomy days. The last couple of days have been gloomy. The next few days look like they're going to be gloomy. I love this. Oh, Scott, you negative Nelly. I love this. Now, do I want this in the spring? No. Do I want this most of the times of the year? No. But I kind of like it when it's gloomy and it's kind of Everything's going to sleep right now. Not in a bad way. This time right now, these next couple weeks in November, I don't mind if it's kind of dark and gloomy. The evening times are super dark. That's one thing I don't like. Had to be in rural Chippewa Falls on Wednesday night, and I was in a little neighborhood that had like 4 houses. It's near Loopy's. First time I've ever been out this way, and I mean it was so dark there. The headlight was fighting a losing battle on the car. I remember I left where I was and I went back to my car there. I had to turn on my phone flashlight. It was so dark. I was just leaving a residence. I could barely see the houses next door. So dark. But other than that, during the day, kind of gloomy, overcast. The grass is dying. The trees, the only leaves that are still there are leaves that are already dead, but they just haven't fallen yet. And I kind of like it. I can't put my finger on it. I just sort of like it. Because it elicits a sense of you can be in your home and you can get the warmth in the home, and it's also kind of it sort of relaxes the senses for just a bit, if that makes sense. Because during the spring, and the weather's that every time it's nice, you feel like you should be outside. This is one of the rare times during the year where you feel like you have to be inside. It's stew weather. It's mac and cheese weather. And then you give me another week or so, and I'm all in on hoping we get some snowfall. Then let's get the snowfall. Then let's have ourselves the holiday season. And then in January, let's try to keep the snow on the ground. Let's get through January. Let's get through February. Let's have ourselves a fake spring and early March, and away we go. And one other thing I wanted to point out as well. This will be something more talked about when we get into 2026, but had a first-hand experience. Not first-hand, I was there, so kind of sort of like a contact, second-hand experience, as to why the Chippewa Valley Cooperative Hospital, getting that St. Joseph's property up and running ASAP would be very helpful for Chippewa Falls. And to that end, Aspiris, too, getting their building up. So we are, there's been a lot of optimism about healthcare in the area, and there's been things that have come in, but Chippewa Falls still remains a a healthcare desert in many ways. And while there's a lot of optimism, and the Chippewa Falls Cooperative Group just had their ribbon cutting this week for them bringing the St. Joseph's property back online before they build what they hope to be their permanent campus in Lake Hallie. There's still no full hospital services yet at St. Joe's. They do have a cancer center that opened up a few weeks ago. They do hope to get St. Joe's back up as a full-service hospital as a temporary location by mid-2026. But for right now, you still don't have a spot in Chippewa Falls. So there's all this optimism, and that's great. But if you're hurt right now, all the talk doesn't help you. And I experienced that on Saturday night. So I was doing the Chippewa Steel game on Saturday night, and one of the referees got seriously injured, separated shoulder, really bad injury, that the young man had to be stretchered out of the arena and taken via ambulance to get some immediate medical care. Not life-threatening, but still needed immediate medical care. But instead of it being from the Chippewa Ice Arena to the St. Joe's campus is 5 minutes, if not even less than that, because you get the ambulance going. I mean, it might even be 2 minutes. I mean, they're practically next door to each other. But instead of being able to go to the St. Joe's property or to Aspiris as they build theirs, which is nearby as well, it took 25 minutes to get to Mayo in downtown Eau Claire. That's 25 minutes. Now, this was not a life-threatening situation, but think of the life-threatening ones. So for all the positive talk, and rightfully so, all the positive talk that there is, that's out there, the reality still exists that it has to happen, that Chippewa Falls needs this, because you are way away from, for somebody like me that lives in Eau Claire, you take it for granted. I'll be honest, you take it for granted. And part of the reason you take it for granted because you don't think about it every single day, and nor do you. You don't want to think every day about what's going to happen in an emergency. All right? You can plan. We talk all the time about planning for tornadoes and things like that. But, you're not every day waking up going, boy, I hope today's not, what's going to happen today if I have to race to the hospital? That's not what you think about every day, so you take it for granted. But up in Chippewa Falls, that's 25 minutes. So we always throw out this cliche of game changer. That'll be a game changer when those properties open up in Chippewa Falls. All right, everybody, enjoy next week. No shows next week. Take time off. I've said it before. Thanksgiving's a great time to work, though, depending on the industry you're in, because unless you have a vacation planned next week, don't take any time off. Very little work gets done. You get to, sometimes some of the best moments in an office occur during a week like that, because some people are out. The people that are there, it's not as stressful. You get to you get to goof around a little bit, and you're still getting paid. And then you take vacation later on, in March and in April, and that kind of thing. So enjoy next week. If you're working, enjoy it. If you're taking time off, enjoy it. If you're traveling, be safe. Eat all that you want. Next Thursday, enjoy the leftovers on Friday, Saturday, and so National Turkey Sandwich Weekend and all of that. It's a caloric marathon, and if you survive, we will see you all the first week of December. On behalf of everyone who made this podcast possible, I'm Scott Monasato, saying there's a great, big, beautiful tomorrow shining at the end of every day. Make sure to take advantage of it. And until next time, so long, everybody.